Barack Obama was born on August 4th, 1961, in Honolulu, Hawaii. His story did not begin in a palace, a mansion, or a powerful political family. It began on an island, in a middle-class home, with a young mother and a father who would soon be gone from his life. His mother, Ann, was a student from Kansas in the United States. And his father, Barack Obama Sr., came from a small village in Kenya, East Africa. Their marriage did not last, and when Barack was still a little boy, his parents separated. He would grow up mostly without his father, raised by his mother and his grandparents. From the very beginning, he was a child of many worlds, American and African island and mainland. Black and white, learning to build an identity from all these pieces. When Barack was 6 years old, his mother married again, and the family moved to Jakarta, Indonesia. Suddenly, his life changed completely. He went from safe, quiet Hawaii to crowded streets. New smells, different languages, and a country still recovering from political and economic struggles. He attended local schools where he was often the only child who looked like him. He learned to adapt, to observe, and to understand people who were different. His mother taught him at home in the evenings, giving him English lessons and extra schoolwork so he would not fall behind. She wanted him to see the world, but also to be ready for more opportunities in the future. After a few years in Indonesia, Barack returned to Hawaii to live with his grandparents and attend a good school. He was accepted on scholarship to Punahou School, a respected private institution. Here, he found himself in another kind of different. He was one of the few black students in a mostly white, privileged environment. Sometimes he felt like he did not fully belong in any group. He was not rich like some of his classmates, and his mixed background made him stand out. During these years, he started to think deeply about identity, race, and where he fit into the world. Basketball became one of his outlets, a way to build confidence and friendships. Books also became his companions, helping him explore big questions about life and purpose. As a teenager and young adult, Barack did not always feel sure of himself. He sometimes struggled with confusion, questions about his father, and the pressure of expectations, but these inner battles slowly pushed him toward maturity. After graduating from high school, he moved to the mainland United States to study. He first attended Occidental College in Los Angeles and later transferred to Columbia University in New York City, where he studied political science and international relations. In New York, he lived in a small apartment and worked part-time jobs. The big city taught him independence and showed him both the wealth and the deep poverty that could exist side by side in modern America after college. Barack tried working in the business world, but he felt something was missing. He wanted his work to have more meaning than just making money. In 1985, he moved to Chicago to become a community organizer on the South Side, a mostly black working-class area that had suffered from factory closures, unemployment, and neglect. His job was not glamorous. He sat in church basements, knocked on doors, and listened to people talk about their problems in safe housing, poor schools, lack of jobs. He earned very little money, but he was gaining something more valuable, a real understanding of how ordinary people lived and how leadership could change their lives. Community organizing was difficult. Sometimes only a few people showed up to meetings. Projects moved slowly. Promises from officials were broken. But Barack kept going. He helped create job training programs, tutoring for students, and tenant organizations that pushed for better living conditions. He learned how to bring people together around a shared goal and how to speak in a way that gave them hope. These years taught him one of his most important lessons. Real change starts from the ground up, not just from speeches or laws, but from people working together. After 3 years as an organizer, Barack decided he needed more skills and knowledge to make a bigger impact. He applied to Harvard Law School and was accepted. At Harvard, he studied hard and stood out, not because he was loud or aggressive, but because he listened, thought carefully, and tried to build bridges between different groups. Eventually, he was elected president of the prestigious Harvard Law Review, becoming the first black person to hold that position. It was a historic achievement and signaled that he was someone the world should watch. But for Barack, it was also a responsibility, proof that people like him could reach the highest academic levels and open doors for others. Even after graduating from Harvard, Obama chose not to chase the highest-paying jobs in corporate law. Instead, he returned to Chicago. There, he worked as a civil rights lawyer, taught constitutional law, and stayed involved in community issues. He married Michelle Robinson, a smart and hardworking lawyer from the South Side, and together they began to build a family. They were not born into wealth or political power, but they shared a belief in service, fairness, and education. Their lives were full of ordinary responsibilities: work, bills, raising two young daughters. Malia and Sociabat, also filled with a growing call to serve on a larger stage. Barack Obama stepped into formal politics when he was elected to the Illinois State Senate. He focused on issues like health care, ethics reform, and support for working families. People noticed his calm style, clear speaking, and ability to find common ground. Later, he was elected to the United States Senate, representing Illinois. When he gave a speech at the Democratic National Convention in 2004, talking about unity and the idea that there was not a black America or a white America, but one United States of America, millions of people heard him for the first time. His message of hope and togetherness resonated across the country. In 2008, Barack Obama ran for President of the United States. Many people doubted that a man with his background, a mixed-race child, the Kenyan father, an unconventional name, and no powerful family connections, could win the highest office in the country. But his campaign inspired young people, communities of color, and many others who believed it was time for a new kind of leadership. Volunteers knocked on doors, made phone calls, and stood in long lines to vote. On election night, crowds filled parks and streets. When the results came in, Barack Obama was elected the 44th President of the United States and the first African American to hold that office. It was a historic moment, not just for him, but for the entire world. As President Obama faced enormous challenges, the country was in a serious economic crisis when he took office, with millions of jobs lost and families afraid for their future. He worked with others to stabilize the economy and support people who were struggling. His administration focused on expanding health care so that more Americans could see a doctor without facing financial ruin, resulting in a major health reform law, often called Obamacare. He also made decisions on education, climate, foreign policy, and many other issues. Every choice was debated and criticized, but he tried to remain steady, thoughtful, and guided by the idea of leaving the country better than he found it. Leading a nation also meant dealing with mistakes, opposition, and pain. There were times when his ideas were blocked, when progress was slow, and when tragedy struck the country. He had to comfort families after mass shootings, natural disasters, and difficult losses. In those moments, he often spoke about courage, compassion, and unity. He reminded people that change is rarely quick or perfect, but it is possible when citizens stay engaged and do not lose hope. His calm voice during crises became one of his most recognized strengths. After serving 2 terms, Barack Obama left office in January 2017. He and his family moved out of the White House and began a new chapter of life. Instead of disappearing, he chose to continue serving in other ways through writing, speaking, and supporting young leaders around the world. He and Michelle launched projects focused on leadership training, education, and storytelling, believing that the next generation must be empowered to solve new problems. He wrote books about his journey, sharing both his successes and his struggles, so others could learn from his path. The story of Barack Obama is not a simple, rich, and famous story. It is a story of identity, questions, hard choices, and a long climb. He did not grow up with luxury. He wrestled with feelings of not belonging, moved between countries, and faced the historic weight of race and politics in America. His true riches came from education, resilience, empathy, and the courage to step into arenas where he might fail publicly. He showed that a boy raised by a single mother, far from the traditional centers of power, could use his mind and his heart to reach the highest office in his country. For your viewers, his life carries powerful lessons. First, your background does not have to limit your horizon. Being different can be a source of strength, not just a source of pain. Second, education in schools, from books, and from real-life work in communities can transform confusion into clarity and potential into action. Third, real leadership is not about shouting the loudest. It is about listening deeply, uniting people, and staying calm under pressure. Finally, true success is not only winning an election or getting a title. True success is using every opportunity you are given to lift others up, the way Barack Obama tried to lift up his neighborhoods, his state, and finally, his entire nation.